Mike Detillier on the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by Sound and Communications. Man, they put up a pretty beautiful video wall at Ingalls Shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Video walls powered by SoundCommAV.com and sound systems for your football stadium, arena or gym, or baseball field. Sound and Communication, SoundCommAV.com. We welcome in Mike Detillier, WWL Radio, TV New Orleans. Mike D joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. What a 2 weeks for LSU football, Mike D. They lose a heartbreaker in Oxford. They don't lay down. They don't quit. They go to Missouri on the road, beat a good Missouri team, and then they absolutely throttled Auburn. Have they found their mojo, Mike D?
Well, other than the Florida State game, they always had the offensive part of the game. Jaden Daniels is playing. Other than Joe Burrow in 2019, I've never seen a quarterback play this well at LSU. I mean, he's playing at the highest level. And they got it clicking with the receivers, with Malik Neighbors and the emergence of Brian Thomas. So their offensive line's playing really well, too. I thought Auburn did a pretty solid job in the running, stopping the run. But, man, LSU's offense, they're going to put up points. The problem has been defensively. And they played, let me just use the term, better in the second half against Missouri. And they played okay against Auburn. But, Auburn's not going to put up a great offensive threat. But they had some moments there. And so, LSU's in a track meet game every week. And it's because of their offense. It is so good. And they can put up some points on the board. So are they better defensively? I would say a tad better over the last game and a half. But it's still the weak point of this team. Their secondary is not very good at all. They've been able to get a better pass rush up front, and I think a lot of that having to do with adding Pete Jenkins to the staff and him helping out. I think you can see Pete's stamp on this and his ability to teach defensive linemen, and they've gotten a pretty good pass rush. They did against Auburn. And certainly did a pretty good job in the second half against Missouri.
Okay. Now you get Army. And I know they run the funky wishbone triple, but I think that's good medicine. Do you think they're trending toward, because Bama has some limitations, do you think we're trending towards an epic matchup and battle in Tuscaloosa of two different teams stylistically? Bama's pretty damn good on defense. It may not be dominant, 2011 dominant, but they're good. And LSU, like you just described, is awesome. Are we trending towards a heavyweight matchup in Tuscaloosa, Mike D?
Yeah, I think so. I laughed every week. I was like, there is no number that you can put for overs that LSU won't get. Because their offense will score so many points and their defense will give up so many. And again, last week against Auburn, they went, over the number. With Army it's a little different this year because they changed the rules on blocking outside the perimeter that you can't go low and after 1 yard. So they've had to modify their offense a little bit. Now they are still sort of too tight end with the fullback lead. But it's going to be interesting, that Alabama game, because of the fact we see spurts with Milroe where he really is in the groove and throws the football well. And we saw it in the first half against Arkansas. And then it disappeared, in the second half. And that's when you're dealing with a quarterback that has some erratic nature to him. You can expect that. Jaden has just been unbelievable throwing the football downfield. And LSU's got some weapons that they can stretch the field. The real battle is going to be in the trenches. Can Alabama's defensive line win that battle against LSU's offensive line, which for the most part has done a very good job protecting Daniels, and then the element of his running skills. And you know what? If I'm Alabama, Milroe runs the football really well too. So it's going to be an interesting game, but I think it's one in the trenches in that game of which team can protect their quarterback the best and which one can play the entire 4 quarters. Because we've seen it with Jalen that he's sort of spurty, that he'll have a quarter where he plays well and then maybe not, and their offensive line gives up a lot of pressure. And we saw that against Arkansas. They jump out to a real big lead, and all of a sudden, man, they in a dogfight at the end. And who wins it for them? Dallas Turner, coming off the edge with the big sack, and sort of seals the deal. So, yeah, and that game's always had so much history to it, so many players. And I'll post it as it gets a little closer, but that game over the last 10 years has produced more NFL players than any other yearly rivalry,
no doubt,
in college football. And it's not close. I mean, those two teams dislike one another. They got great players. There have been some fantastic games. And so, yeah, I expect that it'll trend again. And LSU knows that the only way to keep the heartbeat beaten to try to get in as the SEC West representative is to beat Alabama. If not, then, you go into that second or third tier bowl game.
Ooh, that won't sit well. Mike Detillier, LSU Saints insider, WWL Radio. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike D, let's go to Ole Miss versus Auburn. So many great storylines here. Freeze had a lot of success. A roller coaster at times. The way it ended was ugly. He rehabbed his way back. He's now at a big time program coaching again. Year one, you just saw him play against LSU. I do think that they've still got a pretty salty football team. They played at Cal, at A&M, Georgia at home, and at LSU. Most teams in our league have not run that gauntlet. Your Tigers have almost, but most teams have not. And you don't play the same week to week. So they're coming off getting whipped by the Tigers. I expect them to play better this week, but Ole Miss comes in with Kiffin and the better quarterback. It's at Auburn. It's under the lights. Who do you like and why? Lane versus Freeze this weekend.
Oh, I like Ole Miss. Auburn, I think the real strength of that defense was in the secondary. And, man, they had wide open receivers from LSU. I mean, they figured it out on how to attack that secondary. Now, I give them credit. I didn't think they played the run as well, but I thought they did a solid job. They didn't give up a ton of big runs against LSU. And they're scheme-oriented. Man, I know the coach there, Ron Roberts. Ron and I go back a long time. He was the head coach at Southeastern Louisiana. Then he took over as defensive coordinator at the University of Louisiana under Billy Napier. And then he spent some time with Dave Aranda at Baylor. And Dave's defense has not been as good without Ron Roberts. And now Ron's at Auburn. But they don't have any punch offensively. None. And to keep up with an LSU or an Ole Miss, you got to score. We do in the pregame, Bo. You'd have loved this one. So Herb Tyler and I, we doing it on location at Acme Oyster House in Baton Rouge. And they got a ton of Auburn people eating there before the game. These two ladies passed by us, And during the break, one of them gets up and says, listen, I agree with everything y'all saying other than one thing. And y'all haven't talked about it. Auburn's 2 quarterbacks, they terrible. Terrible. She was adamant about it. We can't get nothing going with the quarterback situation. And it reminded me of something I was told by an NFL head coach this past offseason who had spoke to Hugh Freeze. And Hugh had asked him, how can we get better and as quick as we can? And he said, you better find you a quarterback and fast. And Auburn's quarterbacking situation has not been good at all. Every once in a while, they hit a big run. Every once in a while, they hit a big play in the passing game. But, Bo, it's not consistent.
Right.
Based off what I see, I think they're going to try to attack Auburn the same way LSU did. And that's strength versus strength. They're going to try to hit them via the air. I was impressed with what Ron did scheme-wise because he doesn't have a lot of talent in that front seven. Like normally we would see from Auburn defenses. Doesn't have a lot. But scheme-wise, I thought they did a pretty solid job slowing down LSU's running game and keeping Jaden Daniels from making a ton of huge plays with his legs. But, man, I see nothing from them offensively that they can keep up with Ole Miss in a track meet game. If this game gets over 20 points, Auburn's in trouble because they can't score point for point with Ole Miss. So I like Ole Miss in this game.
Mike Detillier, also NFL Draft Insider. So, he knows all about Brock Bowers because he covers the league. Brock Bowers is out. And we're going to talk a little Georgia here. Mike D, WWL Radio. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So they lose Brock Bowers for several weeks. Do you expect Georgia to stumble down the stretch without him, or they'll have enough talent to overcome it?
I think they'll win the rest of the regular season games without Brock. But once you get past there, into an SEC championship game and beyond. And I don't know how quickly Brock can come back from that injury, and he may be able to. People don't realize just how good he is. And I've done this over 35 years. There's only 2 guys in the college ranks that I have with a higher ranking than Brock Bowers at Georgia. One was Tony Gonzalez when he came out of University of California. He's a tad higher, and basically he's in a dead heat with Pitts when he came out of Florida. That's how good he is. I mean, he's a unique talent at tight end because he's really a wide receiver playing tight end. And he was such a big part of their offense that when they needed something, when they had to have something, he was the guy they trusted could get it for them. Because he seemingly is always open. Bo, it was almost like, when Pitts was at Florida, you say, how can Trask find him? No, he's always open. It's amazing that guy has a knack for finding a crease and a hole in a secondary and then breaking free. And then once he catches it, man, he's like a big running back taking off downfield. It is going to affect their offense. But, man, with all that talent they have, I think they can weather the storm for a few weeks without him. But it's if you get to the SEC championship game, which I expect they will, that's when you would need a guy like Brock Bowers. Now, that's weeks down the line, and I think he'll be healthy by then with that surgery. Mm-hmm. And he may recover from that quicker than some people think.
Agree.
It may not be as long as I saw the estimations with it. And when you're young, you can come back from surgery a little quicker than when you get to be older. But he's a unique talent, Bo, a really unique talent to see that guy And I've seen athletic tight ends, but it's his football mindset of he knows how to find that open spot downfield. You rarely see him drop a football. And then once he catches it, then he becomes like a running back and a big one, and he's headed downfield. And you got problems then bringing him down. So no doubt it will be an adjustment for Georgia offensively because you relied on him a lot to move the chains. Now you got to find a guy that can do that for you.
He is Mike Detillier, at Mike Detillier on Twitter, NFL college football insider out of New Orleans. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike, let's switch gears to the Saints. They're 3-3, quick turnaround. They play Thursday night against the Jaguars in New Orleans. And you and I talked about it. I can't imagine how much you've talked about it on your shows. But the schedule lined up. You don't get that schedule in the NFL, but once every 40 years maybe. And it looks like the Dennis Allen experiment is trending the wrong way. Where do you think this is going?
Well, I would say that's probably correct. Because when you looked at the schedule to start, and this was the one game I looked at and said they're not beating Jacksonville. You're going up against a really talented young team with a gunslinger quarterback. Now, we don't know if Trevor's going to play in this game or not because of the knee injury. Now, if I'm Jacksonville, I think about this for a long time because Saints being an NFC team and they're an AFC team, even if you lose it, that's not a big thing. It's different if you were going up against an AFC team. But they're hot. I mean, they've caught in the fire lately, winning 3 straight. And the Saints offensive line, which is bad to begin with now, you have Ryan Ramczyk in concussion protocol. Hurst is going to miss a few weeks at left tackle. Trevor Penning played like he did the first 2 weeks when they put him in there. He was getting beat on virtually every play. And who do you go up against? Josh Allen, who was with the 7th pick in the 2019 draft from Kentucky, not the quarterback from Buffalo, but the pass rusher from Kentucky, and Trayvon Walker on the other side, the first overall pick in 2022. Those two guys got to take a look at who they got to go up against because the Saints moved Cesar Ruiz from right guard to right tackle. And Penning, he was getting beat on every play.
Yikes.
And these two guys, they may have field games against those two that it's not looking well for the Saints. They're beat up along the offensive line. Their defense didn't play well in the first half against Houston. Really didn't. They gave up almost 100 yards rushing against a team that don't run the ball well. Now, they played well in the second half. They only gave up a field goal. But, everything's got to be perfect for them. Their defense has got to play stellar. You can't have a field goal kicker miss 2 field goals.
Good grief.
He's the NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. And then he misses 2 field goals. And then you get down there, you got over 400 yards of total offense, and you can only score 13 points. You bog down. And this is a team with Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Michael Thomas. And even though he's older, a big target, Jimmy Graham, and you can't figure out a way to score a touchdown? Man, none of that looks good. None of that looks very good at all.
No.
So this has got to be a strap-em-up game for the Saints. You understand who you're going up against. Jacksonville, I see offensively, that team runs through Travis Etienne, who's a Louisiana guy. You don't think he wants to play big in this game? Travis as a runner, also a receiver coming out the backfield. So last week, They get a strip fumble from Josh Allen. They put Travis Etienne in the Wildcat at quarterback, and he makes the big play. Man, they got weapons too now. When you're talking about Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, the offensive line hasn't played as well as we saw late last year. But, man, you got those two guys in Allen and Walker coming off the edge. And the Saints offensive line's all beat up. Who knows who's going to start? But you may well see Trevor Penning on left side and Cesar Ruiz at right tackle. I mean, that's how it's gotten with this team. They've had all these injuries, and they weren't a good unit to begin with. And Derek Carr, man, he's played middle of the road. Similar to what we saw with the Raiders. He's been a middle-of-the-road quarterback, and the play calling, man, that's every day we get that. And you can see there's some confusion on what's going on here, on what to call and when to call it in the red zone. And I know that was something with Sean. He spent so much time, and he would talk about that is a real skill to be able to make play calls in the red zone. But he had Drew Brees, okay? Drew handled that part really well. And, Bo, I'm just telling you, this team, and we would get them, people calling, it's time to bench Drew Brees. It's time to move on. We need a running quarterback.
What?
My thing is, you're not going to realize how good he is until he's not there anymore.
Right.
He ain't there no more. And they finding out just how tough life is,
man,
without Drew Brees.
Special. We'll leave it there. Mike Detillier. Saints, quick turnaround, guys. They're playing Thursday night in the Dome against Jacksonville. And like Mike D said, this is a physical NFL team coming into the Saints' house, and Dennis Allen's back is against the wall. I bet Loomis is fit to be tied. Mike D, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Thanks, Mike D. Be good.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it.
Love him. Mike Detillier, at Mike Detillier on Twitter. WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Hit a little LSU. He likes Ole Miss, which, I mean, I get that, against Auburn. I still think it could be an absolute dogfight under the lights on the Plains. And that's even with Kiffin being there now 4 years and more momentum. Jackson Dart, by many, many moons and miles, the best quarterback on the field. And Ole Miss has, even though they've had better, they have a better collection of offensive skill players. Guess who you're still going against? Hugh Freeze. He's been here. And their schedule has been brutal. Be careful the way you look at Auburn. They have had a brutal. It flips after this game, and they do pull Vandy. They have had some tough road games. We are the Out of Bounds Show. We're driven by your next Nissan Pathfinder or Nissan Rogue at Cannon Nissan in Jackson on the Hill.